Hello, team. How are you? Greetings. This is Dr. Miranda. It is indeed a great privilege and honor to be your instructor uh, for our course. I would like to take an opportunity right now to go into the Module 2 case study guidelines in Rubric, basically to provide you with a little bit more in-depth analysis of what the rubric is asking for and to perhaps help you um, better interpret the requirements of the rubric and what you are being asked to produce in this assignment. Okay? Um, I am right now going to look at the specific rubric. You can go to Module 2 and please go into the study guidelines and rubric, click on that, and you can download that into your desktop so you can, at your viewing pleasure, look at it in depth, or you can also view it online. Okay, um, but it's a very interesting assignment that we are going to be looking at. It is actually quite exciting. Uh, because there are three main points that we're going to be looking at. Okay, but before we actually go into the rubric itself, let's take a look, do a little bit of review on the assigned reading, because you are being asked to take a look at three additional resources for this assignment. One is a video. I love the video. It was very lighthearted. It was professional. And the former Nigerian finance minister was spot on. And I think that there were some things said that could perhaps be taken the wrong way. But one thing I have learned throughout the years, especially in academia, is to simply listen what people are saying, take it in, take some time to analyze it instead of being emotional or have a emotional reaction to it, which most of the time can be negative. I have learned that the more time we spend looking at what people are saying, um, that we come, I think, enriched, more enriched than before. Even it's something that we perhaps don't quite agree with, but that's how things are done in academia. That's how things are done in research. We often look into material that we may not agree with, or we may listen to other ideas that we perhaps may not be in fully accordance with, but we then confront, new ways of thought, new ways of assimilating ideas, and that's how we grow. That's how we mature as individuals, as students, as professionals. So I believe that you're really going to enjoy the TED Talk video, okay? And they're basically examining gains from a global trade, okay? And this is particularly looking at FDI, or foreign direct investment. And the video argues that FDI is a way to raise a country out of poverty, and it focuses on Nigeria, and it's a really great opportunity for learning. I really enjoyed the former finance minister and the way that she was presenting the data. And there was one point that I was like, oh, I wouldn't have put that out there in the way that she did, but it was her own personal opinion. So, I like to give people, the words fail me. Okay, I just like to give people grace, uh, and always try to listen to people with the point of view that they are sharing their information with the best intentions, not to hurt, not to cause offense. But I believe that from an FDI, foreign direct investment, um, and I really enjoyed her argument when she came in and she managed to put together certain things, social economics of Nigeria, but at the same time she was able to talk about the realities of foreign aid, okay, which I believe it's a good thing, it's a needful thing, it's a best way to gain people's love and trust, and also their respect, is to help them expand economically and help them in their infrastructure needs. I think that this is the wave of the future. This is the way to go. Okay, but at the same time, she didn't focus just on, well, we need money, we want aid. No, she talked about the reality of how useful foreign direct investment is in coming together of financial partnership from a non-governmental source, private financing, coming together with these governments, particularly in Nigeria, to try to better the lives of the people. So in a sense, those who are financing are not only providing a good and a service, but at the same time, they are sowing good seed, good financial seed. It's a good investment. I think you are really going to enjoy this video, and I really, really urge you, to spend the 25 or minutes so looking at it. The other one was an article from Harvard. It's called "Shattering the Myths About U.S. Trade Policy." Okay, and it talked about trade policies that were discussed in Chapter 4 of the textbooks. Okay, and it relates them directly to current U.S. policies. What I liked about this article, which there were some things I didn't agree with, but that's okay. We don't have to agree on everything. Okay, that's just life. But I really enjoyed is a balanced view that the article brought about the current situation and as far as the American foreign trade policies. I think it's a very realistic, a very balanced approach. It's neither conservative nor liberal. I think it's a middle of the road approach. And it, one of the things that I believe that we as international business instructors, as well as international business students and international business leaders, we really need to learn how to tune out the media. What do you mean? Become Dane Brand and not watch the media anymore? Not knowing what's happening in the world. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is some people, even our politicians, excuse me, rely on the little tidbits that they hear from CNN or Fox News, MSNBC, okay, and even the BBC. And we have to understand the nature of media, guys. The nature of media is rapid information being disseminated. It's the 24-hour cable news circuit. Okay, one story, the next 15 minutes is no longer relevant. So they really don't have the time to give us the full story. And so, same thing with the politicians, or social leaders or business leaders. Everyone has an agenda, and as much as impartial that we all try to be, we all carry a certain amount of baggage into certain topics. One thing I have learned throughout my doctoral degree is that, doing the research, looking at the information from a very objective point of view. And whenever I'm looking at a story, whenever I'm looking at a particular material, that I'm looking at it from a dispassionate point of view. I separate my feelings, my emotions, my beliefs, the things that I cherish the most, and I look at the information from a blank point of view. And that's how I make up my mind. I don't allow a 2-minute media bit to make up our mind about something as important as United States foreign policy as far as trade is concerned. And right now, we have a lot of that going on. Okay, we had a lot of that going on during our election. We have a lot of that going on right now. We have this side taking this position. Well, we're losing all of our manufacturing to global trade, to globalism, to free trade. And we have another group saying, no, that's not happening. What I really enjoyed about this article is that it took no sides. It presented you the information, it presented the myth, and it presented what the reality is. And I really enjoyed it because that's the type of information that I find it useful, not only for my business, not only for my academic studies, not only for my classes, but I believe as a person as a whole, because I believe that armed with good information, we can make better decisions as far as international trade, international policy is concerned. Now, you may say, hey, I am just a voter. I'm just a worker. I'm just a student. I don't take any participation whatsoever when it comes to the big topics being discussed in international trade. I have no say whatsoever. Yes, you do. If you are a voter, yes, you do. You're saying, how is that? Because guess what? When we vote people in, particularly in our democracies, if you're in a democratic country, okay, those leaders are making a decision based on what they believe the people want. Okay, so I believe it's important for us to educate ourselves as voters, educate ourselves about American foreign trade policy so that whenever we are sending representatives to Washington, D.C., that we make the most informed decisions that we can. Also, this has tremendous implication if you are in international business. For example, as a former importer exporter, okay, it mattered to me a lot how American foreign trade policy operated in Brazil and then operated in Asia, because those were the two primary markets on which we were in business with. Okay, and I got to tell you something that some policy decision that was made before I ever got into import export had a direct impact on our business. And unfortunately, we weren't ready for it, and we almost went under in 1997 when we had the Asian crisis that pretty much hit the globe and wiped a lot of businesses off, particularly import and exports. Okay, but that's neither here nor there. But I believe that you're really going to enjoy this article. Okay, again, I ask you, open your mind, approach it from a learning perspective. Okay, and it's a quick article. It doesn't take hours for you to go over it, and I really think you're going to enjoy it. Now, the other one is the article, okay, and this is a scholarly article, and it's development lessons for Asia from non-Asian countries. Now, it's going to discuss the Washington Consensus as it relates to trade theories and industry trade that are directly covered in this module. And of course, in this module, we're going to look at intra-trade between companies. It's really interesting because one of the projects that I am involved right now is to trying to import organic chicken from Brazil. Okay, and looking at the current atmosphere in Washington, D.C., about imports coming into the country and all that, I find it beneficiary to open a company in Brazil, another company here, and conduct trade between the two of them. Okay, and this way that I foresee some change in our foreign trade policy. This way I can position my two companies, one in Brazil, one in America, they'll be in tune with the trade policies of the United States of America, but as well as Brazil's trade policies. Okay, so there are some technicalities there, whether it's truly an intra business between the same companies. We're still trying to work that out, with the attorneys looking at how we can do this, because I believe it's very important that I position my company to do well and to take into account the changes, particularly current changes in American trade policy. Okay, so for me, this goes beyond just the classroom. This goes beyond just, hey, I'm teaching this and this is grand and I think you guys ought to look at it. No, this is actually impacting me and how I will conduct business when our companies are open. But I really want to talk just really briefly about the Washington Consensus. Listen, it's a really great article, okay? But what is the Washington Consensus? Okay, basically, it's a term that was coined in 1989 by English economist John Williamson to refer to a set of 10 relatively specific economic prescriptions that he constituted the standard reform package promoted for crisis developing countries by Washington, D.C. based institutions, such as the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the U.S. Treasury Department. Now, so this particular new article, the way it looks at it, it actually does a deep dive analysis into the Washington Consensus, and it just picks it up apart. It just tears it up. Okay. And it looks at it from a holistic point of view, but also what I appreciate about this article, again, there are some things that, you're like, hey, how dare you? How dare you question, some really good established principles of addressing some of these issues, some deep ingrained issues. Some of these have a lot of complexity to it, but I appreciated that The authors of this article, they had the courage to question the status quo in terms of trade theory, in terms of how it relates in the real world. And, basically taking to task the Washington Consensus and say, guys, it sounded pretty good in 1989 and worked well for a certain period of time. However, it's not really relevant for today. Okay, and that's one thing that we're going to learn in international business, and I'm sure you're already seeing this, is that when it comes to trade theory, when it comes to established norms, there is no such thing as established norms. There's no such thing as a theory that lasts forever. There's no such thing in business, no such thing in life. There's no such thing in academia. When it comes to business and international business, we have to always remember things will always change. It is the constant reality. One constant foundation when it comes to international business, guys, is that it will always change. That, for example, just I looked at the beautiful discussions that we had, and I see one major thing that we talked about is a change in technology. That alone has changed in the last decade. I mean, with the introduction of the internet as a major tool that enhances global competition and global business, technology alone. Okay, the infrastructure. When we look, for example, at Amazon, it's a tremendous technological tool. I publish my books in Amazon, my business textbooks and whatnot, and that platform gives me access to the world where I can compete against the big publishers, right? It's the technology that enables all of that. So you take Amazon and you expand that out and include other industries and other technology platforms, guys. Everything has been changing. Okay, so I really urge you to take a look at that article. You're gonna like it. Okay, it's a little bit scholastic, but look, you guys have a great mind, and I don't say this just to flatter you, butter you up, make you feel good about yourself. I'm saying is, since reading the discussions and reading how you enunciated yourself and your points of view, this is a very, very good academic class, and I believe that you show strategic and scholarly ways of expressing yourself. So I believe that you're really going to enjoy that. Now, let's go into the actual rubric. Okay, this was just introductory material. I urge you to take a look at it. I think that you are going to enjoy it. Okay, but make sure you got some coffee. Make sure you got a little treat, a little dessert. Okay, and just really enjoy yourself. It's very enjoyable. Now, let's take a look at the rubric, because that's what we are here for, right? All right, let me open up the rubric here in my computer, and we will go into it. All right, the rubric. And this is pretty much how I approach the rubric and all of the assignments. So I want to just say it from the get-go. One is, I use the rubric religiously. That is my religion. When it comes to the courses, okay? The rubric, it guides the way that I grade. It guides the way that I look into your assignment, okay? I'm very objective. When I look at your assignments, when I look at your posts, I don't grade them according to how I feel about it, okay? I grade according to the rubric, okay? Have you met the requirements of the rubric, okay? So I'm going to teach you how you can leverage the rubric for your own good, okay? I had students in the past question a grade or two. I welcome you questioning your grades. I welcome thoroughly. I want your opinion. I want your point of view. I want you expressing yourself, okay? It's very important. It's your grade. It's important to you. It's important to your schoolwork. It's important to your career, okay? Now, when we talk about your grade and we talk about your assignment, there's only one document I bring, two documents I bring up. One is the rubric, and the other one is your document, okay? And we look at the rubric and the document, okay? And that's pretty much how I grade. Now I'm going to teach you how to leverage that, okay? Because I want your work to get the highest points possible, okay? And I want you to have fun, enjoy it, okay? And the way that we do have fun and enjoy, of course, is knowing what we are being asked of, okay? So this is what this is all about. Let's go now into the rubric, okay? And I ask you, before you go into it, before you start writing your paper, please make sure that you look at those three resources. Okay. All right. Now let's hop to it. Okay. We look into the INT 650 Module 2 Case Study Guidelines and Rubric. Okay. Overview. In the assignment, you will be comparing and contrasting the major trade policies of the United States with those of another country. In your paper, be sure to follow to answer the following questions. Now, again, so you're going to be comparing and contrasting the major trade policies of the United States. Okay, so that's your standard. One of the countries that is already picked up for you. That's the United States. Okay, with those of another country, you can select any country you want. Okay, it doesn't matter, right? Even of a country that the United States of America has trade sanctions against, it doesn't matter. Okay, we're going here with the rubric, and it says those of another country. So you're going to do that compare and contrasting the major trade policies of the United States with those of another country. And again, you choose which country you want. Okay, now you're going to answer the following questions. Okay, what are the major trade policies for each country? Now, what I would do, a suggestion, okay, is that the questions themselves, I would actually use them has APA headings on your paper. So, for example, your heading is, what are the major trade policies for each country? That's your first heading. Then you're going to answer that, right? Which policy in each country did you think is the most important and why? That's going to be your other heading, okay? This creates for better organization, okay? It creates, I believe, more efficient grading. It also puts everything categorically in an order, so this way it'll save time for me, it'll save time for you, and it will be a much neater document. Okay, all right. Now, so the number one question is, what are the major trade policies for each country? And you're only going to focus on the major trade policies, not all of them, okay, but you're going to list them. And please, when you list them, I want you to please use APA. APA internal citations or in-text citations are going to be very important, okay, because you're going to be showing where you got those from, okay. Now, which policy in each country do you think is the most important and why? Okay, this is very important, okay. Which of the policies that you listed do you consider to be the most important, okay, and why? Why is it important, okay? Now, this type of conversation that we're having, it's like where the rubber meets the road, because right now, particularly in the United States of America, and with the Trump administration, there's already been a lot of changes in terms of foreign trade policy, and there will be more. For example, we're no longer part of the TPP. Okay, we are right now negotiating with the Canadian Prime Minister, and hopefully soon with the Mexican president, the NAFTA agreement. I don't see NAFTA going away. I see it as a more enhanced document. Canada is really wanting to change that thing, and I think it's a good opportunity for us, for our countries, at least here in North America, to take a look at NAFTA and tweak it. I don't think eliminating it is the answer. I think tweaking it, better enhancing. I think NAFTA is a good thing, but it needs to be enhanced. It needs to be better. So we're already seeing some of those movements. And again, I'm not being political. I'm not supporting. I'm not saying yay or nay. I'm just simply reporting to you what is happening here in the United States. Okay. Now, what do you think might be a necessary trade policy that has not yet been implemented, and why? Okay, because for example, there are some trade policies or even some trade ideas that hasn't yet been implemented, and why not? Okay, and this is where you get to really be strategic about your answer. Okay, and the other one is, what do you think is the future of trade policies? Now, the one that says, what do you think might be a necessary trade policy that has not yet been implemented, and why? Let's leave that one open-ended, meaning if you can find a trade policy that's already been suggested but not implemented, okay, then you can allude to that source, okay. But if not, if you cannot find one, but you have something that you have been thinking about, or something that your colleagues have been thinking about in the water cooler, and or around the coffee pot at work, then this is something, your opportunity to actually go ahead and make a really great contribution, because ideas come from everywhere. It doesn't necessarily have to come from the trade specialists or the politicians. Okay, they, I believe, can be found everywhere. Now, what do you think is the future of trade policies? Okay, are we going to see an expansion of trade, global trade? Are we going to see a retraction of global trade? For example, right now, we're seeing that countries have formed trading blocs, which are very important. For example, the European Union is one. However, as an example, we've seen Britain break away from the European Union because they believe, hey, this is not really helping us. It's not helping our consumers. It's not helping our economy. And we think that we can do better unilateral deals with other nations rather than having to be dependent on the decisions of the bloc, of the trade bloc. Okay, so we are seeing that right now. We are seeing, for example, other countries who are saying, hey, just a moment here. We thought that this was a great idea for all of us to just unite and make common decisions for our countries economically as far as trade deals is concerned, but hey, it's not really working. So I think that we can do a better deal of going at it alone. Let's keep the trade bloc, there are some good things that are working. Let's keep that in place, but I think that there are some things that we can do better. For example, in Ireland, Ireland is fighting a major, major battle with Brussels. Okay, Brussels, right? The European Union political and economic zone. Okay, why? Because the Irish, they offer foreign direct investment opportunities. They offer the companies lower corporate rates, even than here in the United States. And so other companies are flocking to Ireland. They're taking advantage of this, but Brussels is saying, hey, just a moment here. You're part of the EU, Ireland. What are you doing? You agreed that this is going to be a group decision, and we already have policies that addresses these things, and so I don't think you can do that. Okay, the Irish are saying this is our country, we do what we want. The EU is saying no, not necessarily, it is your country, but you have agreed that you're going to abide by these trade rules, these regulations. And the Irish are saying, I don't think so, we're going to lose a lot of money. And so they're in negotiations. Okay, so a lot of that is going on today. Okay, so you got to weigh in. What's the future of trade? Trade policies. Are we going to remain a global trading civilization, or are we going to retract? Are we going to become basically shine away from global trade? Are we going to become protectionists? Are we going to raise tariffs on everything? What are we going to do? What's the future? Okay, and it's very interesting. Hey, we got a lot of material. Look, Washington, D.C., right? There's a lot of change going on right now. In France, you have the elections with Le Pen. A lot of change going on. The Irish are not very happy with the EU right now, as far as the corporate taxation is concerned. So there's a lot of things going on. A lot of things, particularly right now with the United States and Russia and the Trump administration, as far as renegotiating the trade deals with China. Guys, it's a fluid situation everywhere, not just in the United States of America. With the rise of populism worldwide, and a shying away from the trade blocs by some member nations, okay, we're seeing a real restructure right now of the global order in terms of global trade. So, but it's a very interesting time to be alive, to be in business, because it's very important to remain very, very informed these days, because your business could be in jeopardy if your leaders don't quite understand some of these dynamics. Now, this is going to be basically the guidelines for the submission. Okay. Let me just say it this way. I worked for Citigroup as an executive in operational risk management for many years. And I learned one major thing that really, really, it just impacted me. And it came from operational risk director. Okay. And Ron, after looking at a Excel report that I gave to him. He kind of looked at me. He said, "Yubi, I'm going to teach you something, young man," in his very direct New York way. "I'm going to teach you something, young man. You need to make it pretty. You make it short, concise, pretty, understandable, and you use good information, solid information, and you make their eyes look on where you want their eyes to go on this report. So what I want you to do is keep those things in mind and go and redo this report." And let me tell you something, I learned a lot from that. Okay, and so I use that a lot in my publications, as well as when I was doing my dissertations. Okay, so I want you to look at your document when you were doing it. Okay, and that's why we use APA, guys. APA can be a pain in the neck. It really can. I did not like it. Um, I like it now, but I was like, oh, you're putting me in a constrained box. My creative juices cannot work in this APA environment. But then I realized that what Ron taught me, okay, in the corporation, okay, also applies to papers. One thing, you have to make it pretty. I don't mean use color. I'm saying is you got to make it nice. You have to make it presentable. You have to make it readable, legible. If your paper contains a lot of mistakes grammatically, you know what that does? You may have the best information. Listen, you may have the answer to cancer. You may have the answer to global poverty. You may have the key that would, extend chaos theory to economic theory and solve the issues of the highs and lows when it comes to economic recessions and booms. You may be a genius, but if your paper, okay, is not correctly in its grammar, it's not correct in its APA headings and format, that's going to detract. Those misspellings and grammar issues are all going to detract from the information. And the reader, it's not going to take you very seriously, because they're like, if this person is not serious about their grammar and about the formatting of their paper and their document, they're not very serious about the information that they are presenting. Okay? Listen, sometimes you only have one opportunity in business, one opportunity to make an impression. One. Okay? And I've seen a lot of good reports, a lot of good ideas just be shied away by executives simply because it didn't look good. Okay, all right. So the critical elements that we're going to cover in this page that I'm going to grade you by is the major trade policies, the important policies, policies not yet implemented, future trade policies, articulation of response. Okay, so major trade policies. I want to give you proficient, okay, for everyone, okay? So this is what you're going to be shooting for. Under major trade policies is thoroughly explains the major trade policies for both countries, okay? If you meet that, then it's proficient, okay? The other one is important policies. The proficient status says describes an important policy for each country and provides a comprehensive explanation of why it is important. Okay, under the policies not yet implemented, the proficient for that is identifies a policy that has not yet been implemented and provides a cogent argument for its necessity. And then under future of trade policies, thoroughly explains the future trade policies. And under articulation of responses, submission has no major errors related to citations, grammar, spelling, or syntax. Okay. Now the guidelines again for the submission. Okay, your case study should be 2 to 3 pages in length. Now that's 2 to 3 pages of content, okay? And this 2 to 3 pages in length does not include title page or reference pages, okay? Because sometimes what I see is we have students who, right, they have title page, oh, that's one, okay? Then they go into content, then, 2, and then the third page, they make the reference. So they're like, well, no, I got 3 pages, a title page, 1 page of content, and the other third page of reference. That's not what the rubric is asking for. It's asking for 2 to 3 pages of content. That doesn't include your title page or reference pages. Now, it has to be written in APA style, okay? And please be sure to use scholarly references to support your arguments. You don't know what look for? Look at the 3 resources that we looked at, as well as, folks, SNH2 has a tremendous resource. That's the Shapiro library. Okay, please make good use of that. It's a tremendous set of resources. Now, thank you so much for spending this time. Okay, I know it's perhaps a little bit lengthy in terms of the duration of the deep analysis, but I will do this every Monday. Okay, with every rubric, with every assignment that we're looking at. Okay, because I want to be no questions about what the rubric is asking for, and I want you to do your best. Okay, so thank you very much again for this opportunity to guide you through this process. And if you have any questions, any concerns, please don't be shy about getting in contact with me. Thank you very much, and have a good day.